Around 500 million people in the world identify as Buddhist. However, in popular culture, their representation is often limited either to the figure of the monk surrounded by an aura of mysticism or to the image of a Buddha idealized through Western lenses as a kind of god. In general, scholars agree that the cinematic representation of Buddhism expanded significantly after the Dalai Lama received the Nobel Peace Prize in 1999. Following this event, what has been described as a Buddha boom in cinema took place. Since the 1990s, several major film studios portrayed the life of the Dalai Lama and explored broader representations of Tibetan Buddhist philosophy. Some of the most relevant examples include Little Buddha, 7 Years in Tibet, and Kundun. According to the definition proposed by Kuhn and Westwell, a stereotype can be understood as a fixed and repeated characterization of a person or social group which, although rooted in the real world, functions as a shorthand for meaning and expresses shared values and beliefs. In cinematic representations, stereotype characters are usually defined by a limited set of traits, are instantly recognizable, and show little development throughout the narrative arc. However, because stereotypes both arise from and reinforce dominant social attitudes, they remain subject to revision in response to broader socio-political transformations. Among scholars of what may be termed Buddhist cinema, Iwamura develops the concept of virtual Orientalism, a form of cultural stereotyping produced through visual media that turns the figure of the Eastern monk into a consumable, immediate, and ubiquitous image. As Sharon observes, the common cinematic focus places monks as the primary actors in the Buddhist world, yet also raises an important question: how can we account for the plurality of Buddhist practice? Sharon further emphasizes that film representations often exoticize Buddhists, and this exoticization tends to privilege ascetic monks over lay practitioners in Buddhist films produced both in Asia and in the West. An example of how this representation is questioned from a non-Western perspective is the 1999 film The Cup, directed by Kenzo Norwood. As Green notes, the particularity of this film lies in the fact that its director is a Buddhist master, which raises the question of how this may influence both the treatment of the characters and the presentation of the Buddhist message. The Cup challenges two common assumptions about Buddhists: that they are always meditating and that they are fully enlightened. By confronting these assumptions, the film helps demystify monastic life, portraying young Buddhists more accurately as students of Buddhism rather than as perfected beings. For the time being, the monk remains the dominant face of Buddhism on screen. That face is often depicted as mystical, esoteric, and certainly removed from the controversies of everyday life. However, an increasing number of films emerging from countries such as Bhutan, Thailand, and India are beginning to privilege complexity over iconography, portraying the monk not as an emblem of transcendence, but as a human being navigating desire, failure, and communal life. Even so, these more nuanced representations may still entail another form of reduction. Buddhism in its cultural dimension is not limited to the monk. It also includes the lay practitioner and the everyday gestures of those who attempt to live according to certain ethical principles. The monk undoubtedly represents a powerful and meaningful paradigm. Yet cinema still has vast territory to explore in order to offer a portrayal of Buddhism that is more faithful, more complex, and ultimately more alive.
ส่วนตัวผมเองถึงจะเข้าใจอะไรได้ขึ้นมาบ้างแต่ผมก็ยังไม่รู้หรอกว่ากรรมจะกำหนดให้ผมไปในทางไหนจะให้เป็นอย่างไรก็ได้แต่หวังว่ากรรมที่ดีๆก็คงจะเป็นเครื่องชี้นำทาง